You don't feel old at 40. You feel established. Your career works. Your relationships are stable. Your life looks solid from the outside. No crisis, no collapse, just responsibility, routine, and progress. And that's exactly why the biggest mistake after 40 goes unnoticed. There's a shift that happens in this decade, subtle, respectable, almost invisible. Ambition turns into protection. Expansion turns into maintenance. Dreams quietly get replaced by structure. Most people think the danger at 40 is losing everything. It's not. It's keeping everything. Keeping the job you chose at 25. Keeping the identity that once impressed people. Keeping the life that looks successful but no longer feels aligned. Because the real trap isn't failure, it's comfort. So how does someone wake up stable, respected, and still end up feeling stuck? When did maintenance replace momentum? And why do so many people realize, too late, that they've been loyal to a past version of themselves? Before we name the mistake, we need to understand the illusion that makes it possible. Why does life at 40 feel fine, even when something inside has stopped moving? And if nothing is technically wrong, why does regret still find its way in? Let's start where it all quietly begins. When you turn 40, nothing dramatic happens. There's no alarm clock announcing the second half of your life, no visible line in the sand. You don't suddenly feel old. In fact, in many ways, you feel more competent than ever, more stable, more established. And that's exactly why the mistake becomes invisible. At 40, your life usually looks fine. Your career is steady, you know what you're doing, you're no longer the inexperienced one in the room, your relationship is stable. Not fireworks every night, but functional, predictable. Your health is manageable. Maybe a few aches, maybe less energy, but nothing urgent. On the surface, it feels like you've made it to solid ground. The chaos of your 20s is gone, the proving years of your 30s are behind you. Now you're in maintenance mode. And here's the subtle shift no one talks about. After 40, most people stop building dreams and start maintaining routines. In your younger years, you were expanding, you were experimenting, taking risks, reinventing yourself. You asked bold questions like, what if and why not? But somewhere around 40, those questions get replaced. Now it's, how do I protect what I've built? How do I avoid starting over? How do I keep everything stable? You don't wake up one day and decide to shrink your life. It happens quietly, gradually. Your ambitions become more cautious. Your calendar becomes more rigid. Your identity becomes fixed. You begin to define yourself by what you've already achieved, not by what you're becoming. And when small discomforts appear, you rationalize them. The job feels uninspiring? That's adulthood. The relationship feels routine? That's maturity. You feel restless? That's just midlife. You normalize the numbness because nothing is bad enough to force change. There's no crisis, no collapse, no dramatic failure, just a growing sense that something inside you has stopped moving. But comfort can be more dangerous than chaos. Comfort whispers, this is good enough. Comfort says, don't risk what you have. Comfort convinces you that passion is impractical. And at 40, you believe you still have time. Time to rediscover your passion later. Time to reinvent yourself later. Time to finally choose what truly fits you later. But time after 40 doesn't stretch the way it used to. Years start moving faster. Responsibilities grow heavier. Energy becomes more precious. And if you're not careful, you'll look up at 52, at 58, at 63, and realize something uncomfortable. You didn't consciously choose this version of your life. You simply maintained it. So let me ask you honestly, are you still expanding, or have you quietly started preserving? Now let's name the mistake. It's not laziness, it's not failure, it's not even fear of aging. The real mistake after 40 is this. You keep living based on who you were at 25, instead of who you've become. At 25, you chose a career because it sounded impressive, or safe, or profitable. At 25, you chose relationships based on attraction, chemistry, or who fit your identity at the time. At 25, you built goals around proving something to your parents, your peers, the world. That made sense then, but the problem isn't what you chose at 25. The problem is refusing to reevaluate it at 40. By 40, you are not the same person. You've lived, you've lost, you've learned. Your values have shifted, your priorities have matured, your tolerance for nonsense has decreased. But instead of adjusting your life to match your growth, you defend your old decisions. You say things like, "I've already invested too much. It would be crazy to start over now. This is just how life is." And slowly, your life becomes a monument to your past self. You keep working in a career that no longer reflects you because it matches the version of you who needed validation. You stay in dynamics that don't energize you because leaving would disrupt the image you built. You protect a lifestyle you don't even enjoy because other people admire it. This is where it gets dangerous. At 40, you don't lack time, you lack courage. Courage to admit you've changed. Courage to admit your old dreams no longer fit. Courage to say, "This worked for who I was. It doesn't work for who I am." Instead, you double down. You work harder at the job that drains you. You invest more energy into roles that feel heavy. You convince yourself that comfort equals success, but comfort without alignment becomes a quiet prison. And here's the terrifying part. From the outside, everything looks successful. You have the house, the title, the reputation, the stability. But internally, something feels off. You wake up tired, not physically, but existentially. You fantasize about different lives, but call it daydreaming. You feel trapped, but can't explain why, because nothing is wrong. And that's the prison. The most dangerous prison after 40 is a comfortable life you don't love. You won't scream for help, you won't hit rock bottom. You'll just slowly detach from yourself. And then one day, maybe at 52, maybe at 60, maybe at 68, you'll have a quiet moment. A moment when you're alone and a thought will surface. If I had to choose this life again, would I? And if the answer is no, that's the wait. Not drama, not crisis. Regret. Regret that you kept protecting a structure instead of redesigning it. Regret that you honored investments over truth. Regret that you valued stability over vitality. You'll realize you've been living from inertia, not intention. You told yourself you were being responsible, but maybe you were just being afraid. Afraid of disappointing people. Afraid of temporary discomfort. Afraid of looking foolish while reinventing yourself. So you stayed. You optimized a life you wouldn't choose again. And every year you delay adjustment, the identity hardens. Responsibilities grow. Energy shrinks. Options feel narrower. The irony, at 25, you were brave with less wisdom. At 40, you have wisdom but hesitate to use it. That's the mistake. Not aging, not choosing wrong at 25, but refusing to evolve at 40. Because growth after 40 isn't automatic. It requires courage. And if you avoid that courage now, the cost won't be immediate pain. It will be quiet regret. And regret doesn't scream. It lingers. The awakening doesn't come with fireworks. It comes in silence. Maybe it happens at 52, sitting in your car before going inside your house. Maybe at 58, staring at your reflection a little longer than usual. Maybe at 61, when someone your age gets sick and suddenly time feels real. And the thought appears, calm but undeniable. I can't keep ignoring this. The revelation isn't that it's too late, it's that it's too late to keep postponing yourself. That's the shift. You realize something powerful. You're not trapped by time, you're trapped by hesitation. At 40, you still have energy. At 50, you begin negotiating energy. At 60, you negotiate health. At 70, you negotiate time. Every decade changes the currency, and the decade you ignore discomfort is the decade you sacrifice freedom. Freedom doesn't disappear overnight. It erodes quietly when you choose comfort over alignment again and again. But here's the part most people miss. The awakening is not about destroying your life. It's about updating it. You don't need to burn everything down. You need to stop pretending nothing inside you has changed. Maybe it's adjusting your career instead of abandoning it. Maybe it's having the difficult conversation you've postponed. Maybe it's redefining success on your terms instead of inherited ones. The awakening begins with one honest question. Who am I now? Not who you were, not who people expect you to be, not who you built your image around. Who are you now? Because the moment you answer that truthfully, you stop living by inertia. You start choosing again. And that's when life expands. Not because you're younger, but because you're finally aligned. If you're still here, then something inside you already knows. The mistake isn't getting older. The mistake is freezing your life at 40 and calling it stability. After 40, growth becomes optional, and that's exactly why so many people stop. They protect what they built instead of questioning it. They defend routines instead of redesigning them. They confuse maintenance with purpose. But evolution doesn't stop just because your mortgage is paid. Alignment doesn't become irrelevant just because you're respected. And fulfillment doesn't magically arrive because your resume looks impressive. The real danger isn't chaos. It's a well-organized life that no longer feels alive. You don't wake up trapped. You wake up committed to decisions made decades ago. And here's the truth most people avoid. You are allowed to update your life. You are allowed to want something different now. You are allowed to say, this version of success no longer excites me. You are allowed to evolve beyond what once defined you. The error isn't that you chose wrong at 25. The error is refusing to choose again at 40. Because if you never pause to reassess, you'll wake up one day at 60 or 70, realizing you were loyal to a structure, but disloyal to yourself. And at 93, I can tell you this with absolute certainty. Regret is heavier than risk. Risk is uncomfortable for a season. Regret is uncomfortable for a lifetime. So before you click away, I want you to imagine something. Picture yourself at 93, looking back. Would that older version of you thank you for protecting everything or for having the courage to evolve? Go down to the comments and finish this sentence. After 40, I've been tolerating blank. Be honest, no performance, no pretending. If you're brave enough to write it, you might be brave enough to change it.